Welcome back, my friends, to the Unshelter. My name is Rogan, and today is our second religious trauma themed episode. Today we are specifically looking at how to deal with triggers. Now, this will apply to pretty much anyone who has any kind of triggers, but we will be talking primarily, like I said, in theme of religious trauma syndrome and about how to deal with just those emotions that come up really quickly, as well as what to do with the overall anger and frustration that we tend to feel towards the abuse and the bad beliefs and the bad organizations that seem to, what's the word I'm looking for, procreate, I guess you could say, those things. But we are going to use the same acronym that we did in the last video, AID, to talk about how to deal with triggers. And again, before we continue, I am not a professional doctor. I'm not a professional psychologist. If anything, I am a professional survivor of this shit. And I'm stoned. So take what we're talking about, take what I'm saying, with a grain of salt. But let it resonate with you. See what you think. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So the very first way that you can deal with triggers is by simply avoiding and ignoring them. A lot of the times, this is a really important one that is good to use. And it is one that we tend to use a lot. What exactly are the triggers that we're talking about? For if you're not familiar with religious trauma syndrome, it can be different, from very different from people with other types of triggers. Everyone has. Well, the thing about triggers is that they're all related to some kind of trauma in the past. And people can have the same triggers just from different experiences, obviously, or from similar experiences. But with religious trauma syndrome specifically, in addition to some regular ones, depending on their experience and what they've been through and how much they've been hurt, they can be triggered by all sorts of things, from billboards with gospel messages on them, or even advertising like Christian radio stations to listen to, or churches, regular churches. Seeing a church can be triggering for some people if they've been really, really traumatized. Some people can be triggered by what is said on a church signboard out front with their little messages. They can be triggered by what they see online regarding church, Facebook post or whatever, so on social media. They could be a big one would be someone from their religion coming up to them and trying to convert them back to their religion. it might not be a trigger for everyone, but it can be a very nerve wracking experience. Um, I've had it happen to me, where people have tried to witness to me, without them knowing at all, who I used to be. Uh, a lot of the times it's been funny. With my background, missionary kid raised on the Bible, and the things I've done in the name of God, and then having someone come up to me and try and convert me to their version of what I used to believe. It's like, son, I could school you. I could literally school you from the beginning to the end of the Bible on what you're trying to teach me if I wanted to, and I could make money in your pulpit if I wanted to because of how much I know. And and I remember the first time someone came up to me. I was eating in a I was eating in I was just trying to enjoy my breakfast, and I could see these people going around witnessing to everyone in the restaurant that I was in. It was a little family restaurant. I can't remember if it was a Saturday or Sunday morning, but um, it was the weekend, and yeah, and I could not get into I couldn't talk to the man because I had seen it coming. I had seen him going to everyone else. I knew exactly what he was doing. Um, and he would go talk to someone, and then he would return to his table where all the other Christians were, and have a little prayer huddle together, and then he would go back out and go witness to someone else. It was part of an I could tell it was a part of an outreach. It was part of a local church outreach thing because I've been part of one of those myself. And so my nerves were already getting agitated and my breakfast was already getting ruined. But when he came over to try and, preach to me and stuff, like that was fortunately my meal was about done by then. And he tried to pay for my meal, which was nice, but I was not in a I was I mean, it was he had like I couldn't come out and tell him. I didn't want to because I didn't want to deal with that. It wasn't something that I had come out of my house to affiliate with people in order to run into and deal with. And for most people who don't have a background like mine, who haven't been through the things that I have with religion and with church and with being a missionary kid and being homeschooled, most people they wouldn't be bothered nearly as much by having some guy try and come up and try and convert them to their religion, get them to come to church a little more often on Sunday or whatever. But there are a lot more people out there than you know who would just freak out, and I was doing everything in my power not to, and I was able to make it through that. But I had to choose to avoid and ignore this guy to the best of my ability, and just I, I didn't let him pay for my meal because I'm not someone who likes to take handouts. But yeah, and mm, but that was one instance where I used that. And when you're in a situation to where you feel like you're not, or you're just barely in control of yourself, and sometimes the best thing is to just leave. You just avoid, ignore, get out, get away from the trigger. The more hurt and and more pain you feel from the engagement, then usually the best reaction is typically, and especially if you're trying to do something else, if you have plans that you're on a mission, you're trying to get something done, trying to be somewhere, then yeah, you want to avoid, you want to ignore, because you don't want that trigger bogging you down, ruining your day, and potentially ruining your plans and your mood any more than it already has. So avoid and ignore. That is the first option that you have when it comes to dealing with whatever triggers you have. The second thing you can do, this might not feel like an option a lot of the times, but it can become one, believe it or not. And that is to impulsively react to the trigger. Not gonna lie, I'll admit it. I see a church or a church sign that just rubs me the wrong way or makes me laugh at it, and I've given it the finger in the past many times. And that would sometimes be my impulsive reaction. And that's one tiny example. We all have our own reactions that we have, especially online. We all have our triggers online. We see that post that just, sometimes we just take it the wrong way, or sometimes it is legitimately just straight up triggering. There's a number of reasons why we can be triggered by anything. But that impulse, immediate reaction is like, oh, I gotta say something. I gotta say what's on my mind right now. I gotta say and express how I'm feeling so frustrated by what was just done. And yeah, usually that's not been the best idea to follow through with, in my experience. Because a lot of the times when I've done that, especially online, I've ended up in arguments with people, sometimes over, like, throughout the period of an entire day, with complete strangers. It's been over stuff that has been important to me, and over stuff that was important to me but wasn't really significant. Like, well, not as equal of importance, like, say, nerd related, like Star Wars or Skyrim, Lord of the Rings, something like that. And getting dragged into discussions about, the modern day politics that are worming their way into our entertainment and things like that. It's so easy to get triggered by those things today and want to express your opinion. You can even be triggered into agreeing with something, like, I mean, I guess you could say like, almost in a good way you could say, but it's still like, is it really worth your time to just stop what you're doing and spend time expressing this thing that's not really contributing to your day? Sometimes it does contribute to your day, and those are good conversations. Those are good times to express, and it's good to express things that genuinely help other people, even if it's just a joke that makes people laugh. That's something I enjoy doing online sometimes. It's just, you know, I see something and it's, the impulse is to make a joke out of it in order to make people laugh. That's something positive. But when it's a trigger that makes you angry and that makes you frustrated and that, like, it takes you back to the pain of what the memory of what caused that original pain. Because if you think about it, that's what the triggers are caused by. They're caused by the trauma. They're caused by what happened all those years ago, or however long ago it was for you. It's not happening now, but you're seeing something that reminds you of it, and your memory, you're affiliating what you're seeing in front of you with that memory. And because you're allowing that connection to happen, you're impulsively reacting like that memory is taking place now, and you feel like you have to express and defend yourself, even though really it's just something someone else posted. It's just whoever put that billboard up there or that church sign or said that thing, they were just expressing themselves. They weren't. Most of the time when you're triggered, it's not done on purpose by the person who made the post or did the thing or whatever. A lot of the times it's really not about offending you, and you just happen to take it that way. A lot of the times. I know because of how many stinking times I've been there. And it's embarrassing. So, impulsively reacting. It's an option. It is an option. It doesn't feel like an option. I understand that. And the more freshly you've been hurt and the less amount of time that you've spent working on getting over your triggers, yes, the more painful and the little bit more difficult it can feel controlling your impulse to want to react negatively. But, like I said, even though at the beginning it can feel like it's not an option, and yes, and honestly, it is okay. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to have those impulses, because that's part of the healing process. That's part of what you go through. You're reacting that way because you're it's like your body and your mind, your brain are all working together to try and help defend you from being hurt again. That's a good thing. It's just you've been hurt so deeply that it's doing it a little bit too much, and you're being triggered by something that isn't actually hurting you. It's just reminding you of what did hurt you. And your memory of that is what's hurting you again now. Or when you're getting triggered by the thing that you see. And once you recognize that, then you can start to make it into an option. But what do you do? What do you actually do to choose not to react impulsively? Like, let's say you can't avoid the situation that you're in. Okay? You're in a triggering situation, you can't avoid it, and impulsively reacting to it, wouldn't really be a good idea, and it would just waste your time. You're aware of that now. But you're still angry and you're agitated and you can't avoid the situation, and you don't want to react to it because you're trying to get over it and you don't want to make a scene in front of a bunch of people. Like, okay, let's real life situation. I went to go do my taxes once, okay? Liberty tax, free shout out. Because I don't know how to do the taxes myself, and I believe people who know how to do taxes for you, why not? Why not pay them to do those things for you? If, it's a job. Why not? Helps the world go round. So I go to do my taxes every year at Liberty Tax, right? And the first time I go to this one in particular, they were playing Christian music over the speakers. Not really loud, but I could hear the words. I knew what they were singing about. And there was a point or two where I recognized the song. Maybe even had the song on my iPod once back in the day. And it was triggering for me. It took me back. It didn't. I don't want to get fully into it, but it was, music hits me different. I have a very emotional connection with music, and I was very emotionally attached. I've always been kind of emotionally attached to music, even as a Christian. And so hearing music that I used to listen to as a Christian that I really enjoyed back then, and hearing it now, it's a completely different experience. Where I had joy back then, now it's like it's a lot of sorrow and pain. And so I had the choice to ignore it, which I initially tried to. It's kind of hard to when you're waiting. And, I had my phone, which I did use, but it was still hard because it's in the background, and it's a big thing when you grew up on those beliefs, and then you generally don't listen, you don't expose yourself to that type of music or that environment, and then you walk into a public environment and it's unexpectedly there in your face. You're like, oh, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't braced for this. But what can you do? And so what did I do? Well, I de-escalated the situation. When you're triggered, your mind is racing, your heart rate picks up. You're thinking about all these past memories they're just pouring through your mind. Even when I tried to ignore it, when I was on my phone, I was still thinking about it because it was still right there in the back of my mind. Just felt like it was literally bending over my shoulder. And so I just had to end up de-escalating the situation. And I had to de-escalate it within myself. Because it wasn't bothering anyone else, just me. I was the only one that had to get control of the situation. And so how do we de-escalate from being triggered in that moment when we can't go anywhere, can't do anything? What is the best thing that we can do for de-escalating? Well, something I've learned that helps tremendously is to take a deep breath. Specifically through your nose. Hold it for a couple seconds. And then you just casually, relaxatively work. Just let it exhale through your mouth. You do that. And you just focus on the breathing. That will help you do two things. That can help you do step one, the avoid ignore it, because you're literally focusing on your breath. Keep focusing on your breath. That will help you kind of ignore what's going on around you. Close your eyes and just breathe. Just focus on the breathing. Just focus on your body and the breathing. Trust me, it helps a lot more than you think it does. But then the second thing it helps you do is that once you're in that calm space, it helps you, breathing like that, it's going to help you calm your heart rate down. It's going to, when you shift your mind focus from what you're listening to or what you've seen that triggered you, and you take that focus and you put it onto your breathing. You get that heart rate down. You get your mind calm back to where it needs to be. And if you can't physically leave the situation, then you can disconnect at this point. Step back within your mind. Once you've calmed yourself down, you want to, inside your mind, step back from the situation and look at the big picture. So, in my case, what's the situation? I'm listening to music that I don't have any choice about in an environment. I'd rather in an environment which I'd rather not leave. It would be inconvenient for me to leave and avoid. But I'm stuck. So in a way, I am stuck listening to music that I don't want to listen to. That is bringing back bad memories, and it's raising my heart rate. It's raising my aggression level. It's triggering me. It's making me uncomfortable. That is the situation. Because without that, we'd be fine. Right? So, if that is the situation, we want to step back from that. What is the bigger picture? The bigger picture is that I'm there to just do my taxes. It's not going to take that long. It's usually never more than a half hour. A lot of that time will be spent talking and discussing my taxes, so where I won't even be thinking about what's playing on over the speakers. And then I'll be gone. I'll be on my way and be going on about my day, listening to whatever I want on the radio and whatnot. Thinking about whatever I want to think about for the rest of the day. And it'll be peachy. So you look at the big situation, you look at the big picture, you see, is it really worth getting all hankered up, getting my underwear in a bunch, because I heard some music playing that I used to hear back in the day? Is it really worth it? No. I'm not actually in church. I'm not like in a brainwashed situation anymore. I've got nothing to be afraid of. It's just music from another time for me. And I shouldn't let it bother me. Now, do I still go out and, listen to Christian music whenever, wherever? Well, honestly, no, I don't. I don't go out looking for it. Do I still run across it? Yes, I do. I do. But, you know what? Because I made myself sit through those few minutes of when I had to wait before it was my turn to get my taxes done, and I allowed myself to stop and look at the bigger picture of what I was going through and how I really didn't need to be letting this situation bother me. That helped me deal a lot better with the next time I heard Christian music playing. And then, in fact, the last time I heard it, it didn't even it bothered me so little that I actually laughed. I was actually enjoying the memories that I was getting back from what I was hearing, as well as making some jokes about, which I will not share here at this time. I might someday on a comedy stage. If I, well, I fully intend to. I fully intend to. But yeah, it was extremely beneficial for me to be able to do that. And when I did it with that, with the music, then I started doing it with other things, like with getting triggered on Facebook and the random posts on there. And so every time I would start to get angry about something or start going off the handle on someone, I would start to realize, because of that one time, I'd be like, oh, you know what? I'm starting to get hankered up again. I'm starting to get angry for no real reason. They're just stating their opinions from their perspective. They're not going out of their way to get in my way. They're just being themselves. I'm just a passerby. I'm just scrolling by. I don't need to react. I don't need to waste the next 5, 10, who knows how many minutes I'll end up wasting getting into an argument with someone that neither of us are really going to end up getting anything out of. I mean, isn't that what usually happens when you get into an argument online with anyone? Most of the time? Maybe that's just me. But we're all guilty of it at least once or twice, right? I used to do it a little bit more often than I do now. And fortunately, I'm a lot better at it than I used to be. I'm happy with my progression on that. Still need work though. Still need work. So there you go. Those are the 3 things you want to do. Well, the 3 things you can do with triggers. You can avoid them, avoid and ignore. You can impulsively react, which is not usually the best idea. Maybe just save those for when you actually are in physical danger. Then by all means, impulsively react, defend yourself. Defend whoever is in serious danger. Impulse away. But otherwise, yeah, rein it in. Maybe instead, de-escalate. Deep breath. Disconnect. Step back. Look at the whole picture. Is it worth my time? Is it worth my aggravation? Is it really hurting me right now? Or is it just reminding me of what hurt me? And am I just letting the memory hurt me? But then there was still one question that I have not answered yet. It's kind of a leftover from the last one. I mentioned it again at the beginning of this episode, but it was, well, in reference to the last one, I still get mad about the abuse, the bad beliefs, and bad organizations. What do I do about that? Those things that naturally make you feel angry, aggressive, you feel like you have to get some kind of revenge, some kind of balance. I believe that's what you want to look for, is balance, justice. Justice is what you're looking for. Revenge is a different matter that I personally do not recommend. But I believe there's a proper way of handling. I believe there is a very proper way of handling how you feel about these things. Honestly, triggers are one thing. Triggers are things you can work on, and you can learn. You can actually learn to get over. And triggers can not only make you angry, they can also make you afraid as well. And I've had those a lot. Arachnophobia is that is something that's literally a trigger fear of spiders. Literally. It's not making you angry, it's making you scared. And so there's all kinds of things of that nature. But I think when it comes to being upset, like if it's really big on your mind, this matter of, the abuse that goes around within these religions, the bad beliefs that are preached in there, because there is, talked about on this channel, there's a good number of positive beliefs, but there's also a lot of bad ones that perpetuate. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Not procreate, perpetuate. But yeah, bad beliefs that perpetuate or encourage or allow the growth and continuation of abuse. And the bad, what I said, bad organizations, or bad religions, you could say, that encompass these things. So what do we do about our feelings towards those? Well, honestly, in my personal and incredibly unprofessional opinion, I believe it's important to go with balance. Because that energy that you have, that feeling, that rage, it needs to go somewhere. You are right to feel the way you do. You were hurt. Injustice was done. and something has to be done to counter it. Even if it's not against, even if the individual is, even if you've, let's say best case scenario, you've resolved, issues with the individual who wronged you. Like, in my case, I've been able to, with my parents who've, I don't agree with how they raised me, but, we're not friends, but we're not enemies. We're on positive, neutral ground, despite our many differences. But for me, it still irks me. It still gets to me that the beliefs that my parents had and raised me on are still a prominent thing in some Christian circles out there. And, I know there are more kids out there being made to grow up like I did. Maybe not exactly like me, but on many of the same beliefs. And so, that is something that weighs on my mind. So what do we do when those sorts of things are on our minds? They're not just triggers, they're bigger than that. In a way, and so what do we do about those things? For some people, there's a lot of anger attached to it. There was a lot more anger for me attached in my past, and I'm sure some of it, in fact, I know a good portion of it came out on some of my previous videos on this channel. But the balance is that you need that passion, you need that drive, you need that energy. And it's important for you to feel those emotions that you have, to have those memories, to have those scars, to heal, because you don't want them to be scabs forever. Scabs will get infectious, and they will make you worse over time if you pick at them and you don't take care of them the right way. That's how we end up with bullies, because they don't get healed the right way. But when you heal the right way, the most you're going to end up with is with a scar. And ultimately, the great thing about scars is that they're just a little skin imprint that comes with a little story. I got scars from some of my jobs. I'm not scared of the things that gave me those scars, but I learned how to do my job better because I got hurt by those things that gave me those scars. But if I hadn't taken care of them, those scars would have gotten a lot worse. I could have gotten infected, maybe lost a limb or something. So you really want to take care of what your mind is going to be doing here. Whether you have a lot of triggers or a few triggers, whether you think you don't have a lot of triggers. I used to think I didn't have a lot of triggers. But when I started paying attention to how often I would get angry at things or how easily I would get angry, I realized I did it a lot. So that's the other side of the balance that you want to be looking at. Like, is there, like, how much unnecessary anger is involved with that energy that you've got? But you want to do something with that energy, right? So what can you do with that energy? Well, you want to do something productive. That is what I've chosen to do here. There's multiple ways you can do it. I've chosen to do it with what's free for me. My passions have led me, and my desires have led me to pursue the route of wanting to spread awareness and create a charity for religious trauma syndrome. I don't have a lot of skills or necessarily talents. I have artistic talents and writing talents. I have passion and a few things there that I'm working to use. It's not much, as you can see, but I do what I can with the time and energy that I have. What about you? Well, it's gonna be your own answer. You might have a charity of your own or focus of your own that you want to come up with. Something similar to mine. You may want to join up with mine or not. You might have some kind of legal background to where maybe maybe there's something you can do to help track down and bring justice to child molesters who are in religious circles. That would be amazing because there are plenty of them out there, and you could probably make a whole TV show of real life situations about that, and it would be a whole pretty horrific horror show. There's art. I mentioned that artistic talents. You can be a writer. You can be a storyteller. Of course, these are talents you can learn or develop over time. If you're any form of artist, musician, singer, songwriter, you can write music about your experiences. That's actually a really good outlet of art, performing art, creating art based off of experiences, and that's a good way of therapy that is recommended by a lot of people, a lot of professionals. So that could be something that you would look into. It's definitely something I would like to do myself if I ever were able to. Even just writing about your experiences, journaling them for your own personal well-being and growth, to formulate your own thoughts is good. You can write a book if you want about your experiences. There's plenty of other things out there I'm sure you can do. The sky's the limit. Really, really the best thing I can recommend is for you to take the time to work on yourself. Work on your triggers. Work on the things that you know you need work on, that you know will make you a better person. Work on the things that you know are dragging you down. Work to let them go. And I know from my personal experience, the more that I've worked on my own shortcomings and have tried to make myself into a better person along the way, I've discovered more and more things that help me realize what I want to do with my life, what fulfills me, what makes me a more complete individual. So long as you are focused on being better today than you were yesterday, you're constantly trying to make yourself a better version of yourself, then you are going to eventually discover what it is that appeals to you, that you want to do for the rest of your life, that also benefits the rest of the world. It may have something to do with what hurt you in the past. It may not. But healing yourself is going to repair the things that are blocking you for being able to take full advantage of who you are. So the more you work on yourself, the more you open yourself to discovering and to finding, and you will discover and find what those ways are that are going to appeal to you, that is going to benefit you and those around you most of all, and is what you're going to want to do for the rest of your life. It may take you the rest of your life to figure out what that is, and you know what? That is okay. That's part of the journey. That's part of the experience. You know, I'm 34. I'm 34. I'm almost 33. Very stoned. Apparently that's why I'm a whole year off. But I'm almost 33. And it took me till I was like 20. I was maybe 28 when I started realizing what I wanted to do. I didn't have this specifically in mind right here, but I knew I wanted to do something in regards to helping other people by sharing my life experiences. And over time it just grew, and it became more and more hashed out as it came along, and it may change some more down the road before it's over. So, but it finally started when I started working on myself. I started trying to figure out how I could improve myself. I started getting ideas for how I wanted to help other people, how I wanted to use the rest of my life. And so that will help you in figuring out what you want to do with this extra energy, this pent-up energy that you feel, this anger that you feel towards, abuse, towards bad beliefs, towards the bad organizations that perpetuate all that stuff. And you may find at the end of it, or before the end of it, that you may not have as much anger, or you may not have as much anger as you actually need. Wait, I had that backwards. You may have more anger. You may have more anger than you actually need. Some anger is good, and it's good to be able to, recall and use anger in times that are necessary. But for having it all the time, that is a trigger thing that you don't want to have. You want to be able to be in control of your anger. If you're getting easily triggered by things, then you're not in control of your anger that much. Not as much as you think, at least. So tell me, my friends, was this video helpful at all? Hopefully it was. Let me know in the comments. Tell me if you have some unique triggers you have, or some interesting experiences that you've been through, and what you did to help you get through it. Or, sometimes it's good to think back on situations that we didn't handle so well and think about how we could have handled them better. Sometimes we do that too much, though, too. Sometimes we just need to let go and move on. But when it comes to improperly handling things, then, well, it's good to reflect and try and figure out how we can do better next time. It's always good to take time to stop and think about that. But I hope today's video has been helpful. I hope you will have an easier time dealing with triggers from now on, and that these tips have helped you. And yeah, don't be afraid of looking within yourself. Don't be afraid of taking the time to heal yourself. And I am serious about that deep breath stuff. That stuff will work. I meditate every day. I use that stuff. It is potent. Taking a deep breath really helps in those little moments, and just practicing it overall is really good for your body. Um, and that link I will leave to you below. It is it is not specifically about triggers, but it is about fears, the fear trigger aspect, and the lessons relatively apply the same. Don't be triggered by which clinical psychologist it happens to be, because it's still good information. Even I don't agree with everything this particular clinical psychologist happens to say in general, but he has some very good and useful things that I am sharing with you, that I have used, that I'm sharing with you in this video and down below in the link. So please feel free to check that out. How to help face your fears. Also works with triggers. And come back for the next video, because I think the next one we'll do regarding religious trauma syndrome will be about revenge. And that may be just a more personal take on it, but I think it would be something good to discuss. The difference between revenge and justice, and just dealing with that and the feelings involving coming out of being hurt by religion in general. So that should be fun to talk about. I'll share some of my feelings, some of the things that I used to want to do in the past. Oh man, that's gonna be fun. Fortunately, I didn't do any of them. But things how I used to feel, because coming out of Christianity, it was a very long healing process for me, and there were a number of stages that I went through, and that I've seen. Well, I haven't seen others go through the stages, but I've seen them in those stages, in those individual stages, and talked to them in those individual stages at different points. Some people only go so far and then stay at a certain point. Some people progress, and if you keep healing, you keep progressing. That's the big thing. You keep healing, you keep working on yourself, you will keep progressing. You will find your purpose. You will find what it is that gives you a satisfied life. And the answer is within you. You just have to take the time to fix yourself enough to find it. And you can. And even if you're not that damaged, even if you don't have religious trauma syndrome, working on yourself, improving yourself, because let's be honest, everyone can improve themselves in some way or fashion, mentally. So, the more you improve yourself, the more you work on those shortcomings, and how you can be a genuinely better person, you will find your way. You will find your place in life. you will find what makes you satisfied to be alive and to keep on pursuing being alive. For me, I discovered that it was doing this. Good luck, my friends, in finding yours. And I hope I will see you in the next episode. Until then, my friends, stay safe. And until next time, farewell.